That's an opportunity to make the community since the steering.
You wake up all the morning. Go.
Good morning, everyone. We're recording. Okay, we're recording. So, good morning, everyone. It's April 22nd, 2025. It is our 9 o'clock board briefing session on Tuesday. Let the record reflect that we have 4 commissioners. Commissioner Jordan is on Zoom, and Commissioner Kearns, Waldron, and CUNY are here. Commissioner French is speaking on behalf of the commissioners this morning, so he is not in attendance, but on county business. So we wish him good luck on his ribbon cutting. So we did get an email from Mike Burgess that he is not going to be able to join us. He did give us an update on the email. So we are going to go ahead and just continue on with our agenda. Since I don't see Jeff, we'll just catch him when he comes. So Scott, you're next on the agenda, so we'll go ahead and just get started with you.
Thank you, commissioners. We are here today for a fairly straightforward logistical request for you. We do have some brief slides to put up to illustrate where we're headed. We've also sent you a quick memo outlining our request. Generally speaking, there is a logo policy for all of our communications within the county. We are aware of that. And as part of that, we are looking at creating a more unique brand identity for the comprehensive plan update. This is fairly typical. It's done in other places, both in Washington State and elsewhere. Next slide, please. What you basically can envision is you can see the bottom of this. This is from the policy. It talks about no other logos may be used in place, but it lets you kind of add to that. Next slide, please. And then there's a caveat that allows for not necessarily if it's used as central visual element and a logo may be used in conjunction with photos or illustrations of graphic interest. So that is language that is in the county's adopted logo policy. Next, please. What we're proposing is to create something that is unique, provides identity to the comprehensive plan update, differentiates it from other more typical, if you will, governmental documents that we all produce. And a couple of quick analogies. Our neighbors across the river, when they've done their previous 2017 plan, they used the Shaping Spokane. That was their logo and cover sheet. And then for more recently, for their 2026 update, they're using Plan Spokane. And you can see neither of these have incorporated the city's traditional logo of the Monroe Street Bridge and the river and so forth. Next, please. What we've created is this logo dot incorporates the elements of Spokane County, both the traditional courthouse, the city, the wheat field, the rolling fields, the mountains, and we feel that it's created some elements, but also created a kind of a unique, fresh look at the plan. After all, that is our point here. Is we're not changing the dates and calling the update good. We're looking at a new plan for a generation of growth in the county. And so what we would like to do is be able to use this in creating both a subsequent set of pages that will come behind the county web when you click on the building and planning web and then on a comprehensive plan button. You'll see a page like this come up. We would use it in other branding documents, in public outreach activities, so on, to keep a constant focus on this as a separate and unique element. And then what we will do for more traditional paper documents and things that go up on, say, illustration boards at outreach events, is we'll incorporate the county courthouse logo in some element of that, and a statement that says this is kind of like this is my message and I approved it. It'll be here's the county logo, and this is an official document of Spokane County. So we're looking really just for a head nod to say we want to use this new logo in conjunction with our current policy. And I'm happy to answer certainly any questions or thoughts.
Commissioner Perkins. Any thoughts? Because, yeah, I mean, we were, I don't know, was it like 2018?
Probably, 19, I think it was, because we had a new treasurer come in, I think he had elected in 18, and then we had a big letterhead gate. So, it just started the whole branding policy,
Yes, it did, so,
which I see
Teresa, you've got.
have copies of.
Commissioners, I don't mean to interrupt. I did bring up a copy of our logo policy for everyone. I can also pull it up on the screen. I wanted just a couple notes on this and I'm here to discuss it. In section 1.1, it states that the brand is here for our equity. People look at this and they see that this is their tax dollars in use. Ultimately, it also states that the board gets final approval and enforcement for all of it. Overall, this is just our reputation. People want to look and see that this is the county, this is their idea. And I think the consistency between having this logo at some times, but not all the time, I think that needs to be thought through.
Yeah, which is kind of why we came up with the policy several years ago to just try to provide that consistency. Because there was, at that time, there was about 5 different versions of the courthouse that were out there. And then I think Public Works was doing their own logo at the time, which is already kind of done at that point, so we couldn't go back and change it. And so it was just trying to figure out how do we have that consistent logo that, the citizens are seeing and looking at. Again,
And I think Public Works at one point prior to
Yeah.
my time here, the board did give permission, I think, for them to have that.
as theirs.
That's what I was. Oh,
Okay, yeah, and we did have, as the new electeds come on, they can have, I think their own, like the sheriff has his own logo. And the treasurer's office at that time was doing their own. So that's why we were just trying to come up with what was consistent, to try to have it be consistent across the county. I can certainly see, this is a unique situation. But so definitely bringing it forward to the board to seek, it'd be better before it's branded to come seek, a bunch of time and energy has been spent on it, but that's just my initial thoughts. Amber? Or
Yeah.
Commissioner Walters?
No, I appreciate the conversation because I'm not a marketing expert, but I know I was interested in. I know we got funds to help us do community engagement and marketing around our comp plan update. So I don't know if Sharissa has any, you have a background in marketing and digital marketing and branding. We have a brand. Spokane County has a brand. So but I know we want to market this comp plan update process and make sure that the community knows how to engage and that it's something unique that we're doing over the next year and a half. So I don't know if you have any suggestions. Maybe it's not a new logo, maybe it's just I don't know. Because I appreciate the work that's been put into thinking about how do we market the comp plan update. But I don't know if we need to replace the logo. Maybe we need a different way of
Commissioner, if I could
marketing
jump in.
it.
We're not asking to replace the logo. We're asking to have a second
Right.
branding piece to add to that.
Yeah.
And keep the courthouse logo involved in the project. We're not suggesting substituting one for the other. But we're adding to.
Right, but so Scott, as I look at this logo here, you know, versus like the cities, it doesn't say planning or something else. So it looks like this is Spokane County 2046. I mean, it looks like it is the county's logo, not the planning department's logo, you know, or the comp plans.
We could certainly
kind
make
of-
that clear. We thought the 2046 was sort of a subtle but obvious, you know, look at the future. But even on that approach, it could easily be, you know, Vision 2046 or Comp Plan 2046. We could make it more explicit
Or just plan,
for plan.
you know,
Sure.
just to try to make it as
No, that's
simple, because logos need to be simple.
Yeah, that's very
But-
reasonable.
But I mean, I think as I look at that, to me, it looks like that's a future Spokane County logo and us as we look to the future
Okay.
as commissioners, and it's for the comp plan itself. It's not for the commissioners in our logo. I don't know. I mean, you're.
There's just,
guy.
there's a lot going on there. I mean, you've got the rolling hills, you've got sort of silhouettes of houses, you have the pavilion, you have the courthouse, you have the clock towers, you have mountains in the background, and then you have the blue sky. I mean, there's a lot going on, and then you've got the trees sort of in your little, the, we're supposed to replicate arrows there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is something that Charissa, did you wanna weigh in, or is this, did you have ideas or concepts?
Mostly, I just wanna keep coming back to the policy. On 2.0, it just says the official logo type will be predominantly displayed on all county information, promotional materials, including county assets. And I would assume and think that the website would be considered a county asset. It has county information, it's the work of county employees. And I think I know currently, I've seen the website and they have the county logo in place of this one on the site that's current. But I think if we were to swap back on this front page, on the homepage, I'm not seeing in this, what he has, I'm not seeing the county logo on there. I think maybe making it a little bit more clear, this is the county, and then this might be a secondary, or it might be more of a marketing approach, as Commissioner Holder suggested.
And I'm not an expert in it, but it's like having the logo for the county, but then some sort of visual. And so, you know, the city they do have a visual, but I don't know how they're using it with their logo, but yeah, it's like we need like a branding for the comp plan update.
Have you printed this off in black and white to see what it looks like? Because some of the documents that I'm sure you'll be handing out won't be in color.
Yeah, there's a grayscale
Is it?
version that can come out too.
Okay.
And one other kind of logistical point. To get to the comp plan webpage, you have to start at the building and planning homepage. So you start at the county page and you click comprehensive plan, and then this pops up. So it doesn't exist in its own vacuum. But the idea of making it more explicit for the comp plan itself is certainly a reasonable approach, so that if somebody does see that outside of context, it still has specific brand identification for this thing and not for the county as a whole.
I mean, and I don't know what these fonts are, just eyeballing them, but I know we have fonts laid out in the policy. We have, I mean, could I'll just throw something out. Could we ask that you work with Pat, Charissa and your team and just kind of, maybe give it a once over and just sort of see if, maybe this is what you bring back to us, next week or something, or in a couple weeks, but, just give it the once over with the PIO team, with the comms team, and see if maybe there are some improvements, or if this is what everybody agrees on is where we're at, then bring it back, so.
I mean, I'm fine with that, as in then I really do think you want to put plan, just like in, like I'm looking at the brand and logo page. But where it says Spokane County Comprehensive Plan 2046, I think if we had Plan 2046, then it's specific to the branding of the comp plan. And just, yeah, see what fonts or different things could work.
Maybe, yeah, bring it back with some sort of masthead where you'd have the county logo and then this and how it could be integrated. Cause I think that, you know, I like the color of it. It's fun. I just don't, I think, yeah, adding the word plan or vision or something so that you know what we're talking about. Would be good. Yeah. Just. It's hard, because like we're trying to brand this process and this work that we're doing. We don't want it to overtake the actual logo and recognizable logo of the county. So there must be a way to make that work, right, Sharissa?
We can definitely work together and see what we can come up with.
Okay, was there any more slides or is that,
That's it.
that's it? Okay, yes, I mean, I think I'm gonna try to make it work. But understanding, we did have, I think at the time of the policy, I mean, we had about 5 or 6 different logos that were out there and different departments were doing their own things. And so we were just kind of like, we should kind of be consistent, you know, so.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Hey, Jeff, are you in for Mike Burgess? Are you, or is it just Lee? I don't know. I just got word that you wanted to talk, so I don't know what the purpose.
I mean, I think the only, y'all got the update from Burgess. You know, what I'm seeing is there seems to be some disagreement with the tax proposals in Olympia.
Okay,
Burgess thinks they will adjourn on time, but unknown whether the governor will sign or call that. That was his take for the time to read his update. Committee hearings were jostled today. He wasn't able to be here. It appears the 1 to 3% increase on property taxes is dead at the moment. At this stage of the legislature, nothing is really ever dead. You never know what that final piece of sausage will be from. As of all the news reports I'm seeing, most people think that piece is out. They're looking at the B&O taxes and the sales tax, which would hit a lot of services. I've seen like computer industry, consulting. I don't think it would hit medical, but they definitely are lining out by sector how that would impact. And if that one passes, it'd be an interesting equation for the county because we would get more revenue, but we'd also be paying taxes on some of those. You know, think if we had to pay a sales tax on workday implementation, that would be a huge dollar amount. So that's kind of the only pieces I'm aware of right now.
thank you.
Didn't realize that was up.
I think Shelley told me that you were gonna speak on. Or Gina said once Mike wasn't here. So just a second, there's Chris. Don't go away yet.
Don't
Commissioner-
run off. Yeah. Can you just repeat what you said? It sounded like, did you say the property tax 3% is not likely to move forward? Is that what you were saying? I just missed it.
Correct. I read quite a few news articles this morning and per multiple media outlets, the 1% annual increase being increased up to a 3% appears to be dead
Okay.
now. But you know how final packages are, who knows what might make it in. But at this point, and it appears the governor has come out against that one also. Citing he's my paraphrase, but the takeaway was he doesn't want increases that are gonna hit, you know, your average normal people. And that, of course, that's one that would hit everybody.
Thank
So-
you.
So I don't know if it's correct or not. I'm hearing somewhat too, that the state is really wanting to have control of a lot of the increases that are going on. And with the schools, that they're trying to make sure that they're keeping their property tax levy. It's already for whatever they need to do for schools for the McCleary. So they're not really wanting to relinquish some of that.
How it gets pulled in, and then the 3% would have an impact on a lot of those voter approved measures. A lot of them index to a 1% per year. That would allow that 1% to change to a 3%. So it's more than what we think about here as the 1% on property tax. It could have a multiplying effect on voter approved packages that could go up by the additional percentage every year. How that would impact the, so. It's not simple now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought it was just simple. We could allow counties to go from 1 to up to 3. It was,
But one part of it.
yes. So legislature's really good at adding on a lot of other things. So a simple bill doesn't stay simple.
Pretty much no, but they do. Burgess does think, he says the rumors he's hearing, the House and Senate are pretty close. So the question will be, do they pass it and see what the governor does? Or do they try to get that third leg of the stool in place before they vote?
And when are they supposed to be done?
Sunday.
Sunday. Okay. I'll be fine. We'll look forward to his update on Monday or next Tuesday, I guess. Okay, thank you. Okay, then that takes us to Mr. Amacio.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sharissa, would you put on that one slide for me as we move forward? What I'm talking about this morning, board members, is contracting for services in Spokane County. I want to distinguish contracting for supplies, equipment, materials from contracting for services. With regard to supplies, equipment, materials, by law, all elected officials and department heads are required to use your purchasing department. With regard for contracting for services, however, there is no law in the state of Washington that requires that code counties go through any particular process to hire contract for services, except for architects and engineers. And there's a specific statute that requires us to go through a selection process for A&E. In Spokane County, we've adopted a policy, however, which elected officials and department heads are required to follow in conjunction with contracting for services. It's different for department heads and elected officials. For department heads, there's a 3-step process if they want to hire a contracting for services they've got to go through. 1, they notify the purchasing department. 2, they request the purchasing department to assist them in going through the appropriate RFP process that they want to go through. And 3, once a contract is signed, they give a copy of it to the purchasing department. Those are the 3 requirements that a department must go through to contract for services at the present time. Elected officials, however, are treated differently. If you're an elected official, you don't have to go through steps 1 and 2. You just have to go through step 3. That is to say, when you hire someone to provide services, you've got to provide a copy of the executed contract to the purchasing department. Pretty simple process. It's complicated because in a lot of instances, a contract for services has insurance and indemnification provisions in there. And when they have insurance indemnification provisions in any contract for services, only the Board of County Commissioners can agree to those contracts. So any contract for services, which has indemnification or insurance provision, must come in front of the Board of County Commissioners. And staff is trying to come up with a way to eliminate clogging your agenda with contract for services, which include indemnification and or insurance provisions. So this is what we are suggesting that you do. If you look at the chart, which is up on the board, if you can see it, the proposal that we have is as follows. If you are a county department and you go through the process to hire a contract for services, the Board of County Commissioners will delegate the ability to approve insurance and indemnification provisions to your risk manager, Mr. Gadd. And Mr. Gadd, if he agrees with the insurance provisions, would initial the insurance provisions and date them in the contract itself, or send an email agreeing to the insurance indemnification language, which is attached to the contract. And if this occurs, if the board delegates that to the risk manager, that particular contract would not have to come in front of the Board of County Commissioners. The same approach would apply for elected officials. If an elected official wants to hire someone to provide services, and the contract contains indemnification or insurance language, again, only the board can agree to that. The board would delegate to your risk manager the ability to agree to that insurance indemnification language, which would preclude the necessity of it coming in front of the Board of County Commissioners. So there are two options. The reason we're here today is because do we want to treat elected officials in the same capacity as department heads? That is to say, your present policy with regard to a county department head is they have the ability to approve a contract for services up to $50,000 without coming in front of the board. An elected official has the ability to approve a contract in any amount so long as they have money in their budget. So the question in front of you is, should we treat department heads and elected officials the same with respect to contract for services with indemnification and insurance language? Do we want to delegate it to your county risk manager so those contracts don't have to come in front of you? Or do you want to see those contracts in certain instances come in front of you? It's kind of confusing, but we're trying to make your jobs easier. So the simple issue is, do we want to amend the county code to eliminate contract for services by elected officials and department heads coming in front of you, which contain indemnification insurance provisions, if the risk manager will initial on the contract that those provisions are acceptable? And if that's the case, the contracts wouldn't have to come in front of you, but they would be given to your purchasing department to be put on the resolution directory. Or you want to leave it like it presently is. And the way it presently is any contract with any insurance or indemnification language must come in front of this board. You're the only people that can approve that language unless you delegate it to Mr. Gadd. We're just trying to make your job a little easier. You legally have the ability to delegate this executive function to Mr. Gadd, your risk manager. And so what always happens right now, here's what happens. If there's insurance provision in a contract for services, the first thing legal does, we send it to Mr. Gadd and he approves it. That still has to come in front of you because you haven't delegated that to him. So we're just trying to eliminate this process under certain circumstances. And the reason why it's so important is sometimes the particular service provider can't provide services until the contract's signed. So by delegating this insurance and indemnification provision to your risk manager, we'll be able to move the contracts forward in a much more timely fashion.
So question on with the electeds, because once, reality is once we approve our budget, we do the orange.
Commissioner Cooney, you're absolutely
Can
correct.
we require them to then?
You asked all the right questions. State law is very clear. Once the Board of County Commissioners approves the budget of an elected official at the fund level, that elected official can spend the money how he or she wants. However, that elected official cannot bind the county to an insurance and indemnification language. So if there's a contract that elected official wants to sign that has insurance and indemnification language, it still has to come in front of the board because that elected official Only you can bind under under those provisions. So that still has to come in front of the board by law. And the elected officials understand that, and they've been following that procedure over these many years.
Right.
Yeah, but you're correct. They can spend the money however they want, but they can't bind the county.
So how are we making it more restrictive for them?
That's a good question. At the present time, Commissioner CUNY, because the Board of County Commissioners approves the budget at the bottom line, it's very hard to direct the elected officials to do anything except what they're presently doing. What they're presently doing is, if they sign a contract for services that doesn't have any insurance indemnification language, they can sign that as long as he or she has money in their budget to pay for that for the term of the contract. That's the present law. It's hard for the board to change that. That's why I made the distinction at the outset. With regard to the purchasing of supplies, equipment, and material, state law makes it very clear that elected officials have to use your purchasing department. In code counties such as Spokane County, for purchasing services, there is no law that requires an elected official to go through any process. That's why our present process allows the elected official to contract so long as they have money in his or her budget at the fund level. Only thing we've done to elected officials so far is, if you have money in your budget and it doesn't have insurance or indemnification language, you can sign the contract. If it have money in your budget and it has insurance and indemnification language, it's got to go through in front of the Board of County Commissioners.
So what is the change that you want?
The change we would delegate to the risk manager the ability to improve indemnification and insurance language in any contract for services, so that it wouldn't have to come in front of the Board of County Commissioners for elected officials and department heads.
Up to.
And you asked the magic question. Do you want to treat them the same? Or do you want a $50,000 limit in there? Let me rephrase that. Right now, this is so confusing. I apologize, Mary. Right now, an elected official can contract for services up to $50,000 if they have money in their budget and there's no indemnification language. And the department head, any amount over $50,000, they always have to come in front of the Board of County Commissioners. The Board of County Commissioners wants more control over your own department heads with regard to contracting for services. You want to know about it.
Sometimes you want more control over the electeds, but we don't have that.
But we don't have, with regard to electeds, the electeds never have to come in front of you if they have money in their budget and there's no indemnification or insurance language. So all we're talking about is we want to delegate to the risk manager the ability to approve indemnification insurance provisions in contracts or services by department heads, either in the total amount or up to 50, and elected officials for the total amount. That's what we're asking them to do.
Commissioner Jordan, I see you raised your hand.
Question for Dan. If we were to delegate the decision making on that indemnification language, what would you be looking out for? If you're looking at different contracts, what type of language would you say, okay, this looks good, but maybe this one doesn't? So I'm just trying to get a sense of that discretion and how that would be used.
And before he answers that, Chris, he's already doing that ahead of it coming
Yes,
to us. So he's already going through that process, but he can explain it.
yes.
So the biggest thing that I'm looking for is either it's just the liability, right? The transfer of liability. So ultimately, we want the contractor to carry the liability for the contracts and cover the county. If we can't get that, then we want a 50-50, where they're responsible for their actions and the county's responsible for our actions. And if it goes to court, we might have to fight that and figure that out in court, but ultimately we want a 50-50 indemnification. Where it gets a little, I guess, sketchy is if we have a contractor, and usually we see this more with state contracts and stuff, where they will not accept anything but 100% indemnification from the county. Meaning they're not going to take on any liability for this, the county's going to carry it all. And at that point, that's where it gets a little more, we have to make a decision. Is the contract value, the worth, the exposure, what are we looking at in all those realms? And does it make sense to move forward with that contract and accept that exposure?
Can you give me an example of
Yeah.
what that would be, Dan? The state, the 100% in the opposite?
$15, right?
Right.
Right, the waiver left to $15, a good example.
I couldn't hear that. Can you repeat that?
The waiver $11, $15, Commissioner Jordan is an example of that.
The 1115 waiver for mental health.
Right.
You know, the state is saying that all of, you know, for us to get that money back, we're the ones providing the service, so we're the ones that are on the.
So we have to indemnify the state. They're not gonna
Okay.
take any responsibility for anything
Then
if
we
something
also
goes
do it
wrong.
for like transportation projects and stuff.
Some of those, yeah, yeah. It just differs, you know, different situations, depends on the contract. But we mostly see that with state funds, right? When they're funding us and giving us money, they don't want to have anything to do with the liability of if we potentially use that money wrong or the program goes south, we're gonna indemnify the state.
So as of today, it comes to us. We're the ones that take that final vote. If we say no to somebody, you know, that's us saying that, are you comfortable being in a position where you're the one that may have to tell an elected official no?
Yeah.
Some of them can be a little pushy or get a
Right.
little angry if they are given the answer.
Well, and
no.
I think.
Are you
it's-
okay with being put in a
Yeah,
position?
I think
like
it's
that?
you know, we have to understand the risk appetite for the county and what makes sense, right? To accept some liability and what we don't. And I guess that would be my question, and to make sure there's a great understanding of that delegation to me, that if I'm saying, no, we're not going to accept this contract because of the way the liability is written. The insurance is insurance, and that's just dollars, and that's usually not a big deal. But it does come down to the liability side, that if I'm saying no to this, then we have to find another route. I don't have any problem saying no. It's just as long as it's backed.
I don't recall
So-
board, I'm pardon me, Mary, go ahead.
So for the most part, though, you're already doing all
I
of
am.
that ahead of time.
Yes.
So, before, because I mean, I haven't seen us say no to a contract.
Right.
I mean, I think what we're trying to do is, as you commented, that there's a lot of small contracts, with the sheriff's office that are coming before us, but it's because they all have indemnification, you know, clauses in them.
And-
So,
We even have some contracts that don't even have dollar amount. It just talks indemnification. And so there's not even a dollar amount attached to it, and it's super teeny and small. And it's kind of like, well, why does that have to come before
Yeah.
the board?
so my question would be, how many of those are we seeing? I'm again, kind of back to the grants question. It's like, it's hard to make the decision on a dollar amount when we don't know what the population is.
Sure.
So, so I'd like to kind of see what that is. But I mean, I think for the most part, since we know anything 50,000 and up comes before us, I would probably put that same stipulation on the indemnification side for elected officials, because otherwise we lose complete control of what the elected officials are contracting. Because all you're looking for is the indemnification
And
side.
insurance, yeah.
We're looking for, does it make sense for the county, and are we willing to say you can use county dollars to do that if we've got an elected official that just wants to go do interesting things, even though we've provided the budget. This is kind of our one stop to
Have a conversation
Yeah.
about it, yeah, before it moves forward.
And as the board is aware, the reason indemnification goes through risk management is because we're part of the county's risk pool, and we can't agree to any indemnification unless it's consistent with the county's risk pool policies. So that's why Mr. Gadd reviews these on a case-by-case basis. Commissioner CUNY, I don't ever remember a circumstance, and I have to say this, where Dan hasn't been able to negotiate the insurance and or indemnification language so that it's acceptable to him. And we haven't had to come before the board and say, board members, Dan needs to get a hold of the contractor here and tell him this is unacceptable, and the board needs to decide if they want to waive it or not. So Dan, do you recall that ever occurring?
I think there's just one, and it was early on, but it was just money coming from the state, you know, and it was the same kind of thing. We were looking for a 50-50 and they were, nope. So.
Yeah.
So it's very rare that we get pushback, you know, on 100% where they're looking for 100% from the county.
So I guess, I mean, that's just where my mind goes, is seeing what the population is. We're honestly actually making it less restrictive for electeds. Because by putting the $50,000, right now it's at 0, so we're just giving them more ability, where it's you know, agreed to it, but again, you're already looking at all of these anyway.
I understand, Commissioner Cooney, you're saying, hey, listen, Jim, I like the idea of delegating to Mr. Gadd. Let's leave it at less than $50,000 dealing if there's insurance indemnification language. Anything greater than that, whether it's an elected official or a department head that has indemnification or insurance language, comes in front of the board. That's what I'm hearing you say. The $50,000 is the break
Well,
where you want.
I'm saying, let's see what the population is
okay,
to
yeah.
determine that that's the right number
I don't,
on elected. I mean, because it's only electeds,
that's right.
because, well,
It'll be both.
department heads as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, this
okay.
is being proposed to essentially have and you're correct, Commissioner Cooney. Dan's always going to look at anything that has indemnification or insurance provisions in there, regardless of the dollar amount. So the question of the board is, are you comfortable with delegating that authority so that it doesn't have to come to you for any contract under 50,000, period, whether it's department heads or other elected officials,
Seems like that would be the right number, but again, I'd just like to kind of see what the population of or contract dollars are.
We can get that population for you, Commissioner Cooney, and share that with everyone, and then that'll make your decision easier if that's what you'd like to do. There's no rush on this. Let's get that information together and we'll come back in front of the board again with the population that you've asked for, and then you can make a decision.
Probably purchasing.
Yeah.
Print it. Spreadsheet. And then the question lies, you know, Scott and I talked about it when we were talking about the agenda items, you know. Do the commissioners want to see in the future then, you know, just on a monthly basis, just, and again, that's why you kind of need to know the population. Contracts that are under 50 that do have indemnification that you're approving, that we just want to get a list once a month that we have the ability to look at or not look at as our choice. So that's kind of the other thing we can do, because purchasing would just be able to print the list and send it to us. So if people are curious that way.
Does the board have any other questions?
Commissioner Jordan?
I think that's a good idea, that if we were to delegate, it never hurts to just kind of see a report so that we have general awareness. I think it's a good thing.
That's consistent with, if the board recalls, when you delegated authority to Justin in community services, he has a number of contracts that have administrative changes to them, not dollar amounts usually, but they get amendments and whatnot. And you're comfortable with delegating the authority for him to execute those. But then he would provide you back a report on what those contracts were on a quarterly basis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll get that information. We'll check the resolution that when you delegate it to Jason Johnson, that kind of stuff, and use that as a template possibly in modifying this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next we have Matt Zerfar.
Commissioners, Ron has just a one-page slide for this one. Before you today to discuss, we've received a request from Flock Safety, that's the automatic license plate readers, to amend their existing franchise, basically adding locations. Slide. So you can see up on the map of Spokane County, the red dots are the locations being proposed. Interestingly, when I looked at it, it appears the vast majority are on state routes, not on county right of ways. So it looked to me like
half or 3/4 or more are actually not in county right of ways, but this is an increase. They want more cameras. I don't know the exact number. But just coming before the board, make sure they're okay with that. There was some discussion before about the license plate readers. And I don't have the details on the operations. This is just amending the franchise to allow more locations.
Yes, and so it's allowing them to put them up.
Yeah, it's a private company, Flock Safety,
Right.
that contracts with the sheriff's department to offer this service. And they maintain the equipment to take care of everything, but they're operating in our right of way, so they need a franchise to do that. And this is essentially expanding the number of locations that they're allowed to do that in.
So I'm curious about the sheriff's office. Isn't here
Yeah,
to state the need
yeah, when I
is
saw
to do it.
I also thought, I guess I was under the impression that the sheriff's department helped determine what those locations were.
Yeah.
too. Is that not the
I
case?
believe that is the case. I
Oh.
think they told them where they want them and they provide service, putting it in and maintaining
Okay, so
it.
this isn't Flock saying Flock wants to put one at each of these
they're
locations.
being-
They're saying the sheriff's department would like us to put them at these locations.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, since
okay.
they're a private utility, in a sense, they have to come through us with the franchise, amend the franchise, because we only
Got it.
issued it for discrete locations. It wasn't a countywide, you can put them anywhere, if you can put them in these locations, and the sheriff's office wants more locations, so we're amending the franchise to allow for more locations.
Okay. I mean, I don't have a problem. I just said, I would like Kevin Ritchie just to, I think. Cause I mean, that was kind of my thing. It's like, it seems like it's Flock and it's the sheriff's office, so sheriff's office should be here.
Yeah, and that could be
connection.
on our end, Commissioner, that he wasn't notified of this meeting. We were just amending the franchise. I
Okay.
know Kevin's aware that they're expanding locations. I'm sure it was his or its request, but inside of that, I didn't know. He may not have been aware of the briefing time.
Can we just see if we can get Kevin Ritchie to pop over quick?
Out this, I believe.
Who's he out this week?
He's been checking emails, but Johnson is out.
Okay.
Who's the other gentleman that comes in?
Justin Elliott.
Yes,
Could be,
that's it.
yeah. Just to,
Yeah, I would appreciate more info on some of these locations and
Yeah.
like where they being placed. Just a little more information on that would be great. I mean, they're in the public right away, but I was just wondering, are they on
There-
like
two
the
things.
traffic signals or?
Yeah, they will put them on traffic signals. Some of them are where they will attach them to poles. So they can go either way. If there's no signal available at the location, like one of these you could say was at Trails near the casino. And that one, we don't have a signal there. So they'd either attach to a luminaire or they would need to put in their own post to do that.
no, I don't have a problem. I just feel like this should be coming from the sheriff's office to allow us to have you guys change the right away. It's just, but procedurally, I think, as these things happen, we want to make sure of that, because
Would you like to see us to see if the sheriff's office could join us next week to discuss it?
well, I think if we can just get them over at some point this morning before we adjourn, then I think that's all we need. So,
See if Gina can track Justin down.
Justin or the sheriff, I don't know if the sheriff knows.
So could I ask about this new agreement? Is it still for specific locations or is it broader than that?
It's still for specific
Okay.
locations. I think the board actually at the time, as I remember, wanted to know what additional locations went in, and that's why it was granted for specific locations. If we're to become comfortable and wanted to grant it countywide, we could do that in the future too. We do track all facilities in the right way, so we know where poles and where utilities are in our right of ways, so our office would be aware of the discrete locations. The board just, I think, wanted a little more context initially as the program was ramping up, so they knew how many were going, just to see how this went.
Partly it's then becomes, as we've just talked contracts, it's a bigger contract. What does that mean? And all of that, so it's a little bit of a multiplier effect. And again, getting to ask the question that they have the budget to do. So, I mean, because I think they're certainly helping to deter crime and very useful and all of that. So, but I think, yeah, it's should be a procedurally a request from the sheriff's office to extend for you guys to, help us make that decision to extend the right away agreement. Okay, well, thank you. A little more input from the sheriff's office, and this is on next week's agenda, right?
Yeah, and it's not urgent, Commissioner. If we want to push and wait till next week and brief and bring the sheriff's office into the conversation, how to do that.
We'll see if we're gonna take care of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's gonna take us to Ben Bradabo.
Mom?
Good morning, commissioners. We're here to talk about we don't have slides for this. Scrambling to get everything together before May 2nd to get everything submitted to the elections office. One of those items is the folks who would potentially create a for or against statement on the ballot for the ballot pamphlet for the protection area renewal.
I'm sure I show that. So for Commissioner Jordan, we'll have it up there on the screen.
We're moving quickly here, so staff just came up with a handful of names, kind of from a couple of different, what I guess we would call classifications of individuals. We've got some kind of general water folks that are related in river aquifer water protection resources, representative of water purveyors, and a couple of examples of educators that are familiar with the water resources educational programs. Never done this before, so we just wanted to come in before you, see if you had names you wanted to add. We have to have a resolution if we want these submitted before elections, which would be next week for legislative action. We wanted to come today, offer up some potential names. These are all folks we did contact to see if they would be interested in participating in that committee. Don't have a lot of folks in our community that we know of that are against the APA. So if we do nothing there, then that responsibility falls to the auditor. But for the for committee, if the board is interested, we could, potentially pick a name from each category. If you'd like any more background on kind of those individuals and where they came from, happy to follow whatever the board would like to do on this, or if you'd like us to draw straws and pick 3 names, we can do that.
Yeah, or I think in the past, we've just kind of round tabled it and come up with the names. So this is great to have a list to start with. So I see one of the list of names in the audience here, so I'm just going to ask Diana Wilhite if she's willing to be on the committee. Sure. Thank you. So I don't. It's okay.
Needs to show up. Yeah.
It does.
We don't voluntold people, they're here.
That's right.
volunteering.
Exactly. Well, I mean, as you know, that's the best input is when someone's willing to show up. It's like they're dedicated to it. So that's awesome. Plus nice to have somebody from the Valley,
Yes.
to support it. So, anyone else on any other names or ideas?
So, Andy Dunau has been really involved for years and years.
Yeah.
On Spokane River Forum and cleanup, and I think his name's known out there. I think did he serve on the Parks Board? Anyway, he's been involved in. He's a city of Spokane resident, so it'd be good to have someone from the city too, and if he was willing. I don't know, I know Rob would be great too. I don't know if I know Catherine Thompson.
Catherine Thompson is the executive for the Spokane River Keeper. So
she's the new.
I think there's 3 people that are
Okay.
managing the Spokane River Keeper, and she's the executive director.
Right.
is Andy still on Spokane River Keepers?
He was Spokane River Forum. He just retired recently, so this actually is the first day of the Spokane River Forum annual conference, and he's not running it because he retired just a few months ago.
Okay.
We contacted all these people and they're all agreeable to participate. In fact, everybody kind of seemed excited to. Didn't get any no's.
Okay, very good.
I mean, another option from, I think he lives in the city, is the former Spokane River Keeper, Jerry White Jr. He's known, his name's known, because he was the river keeper for like 12, 15 years. So that was just another, yeah. River Keeper Emeritus, I call him.
Oh, there you go. Chris, any thoughts?
I just appreciate Diana. I agree Andy would be a good option. I like the idea that Commissioner Waldrop just came up or just mentioned of the former river keeper, Jerry. I think he's a good name out there. So that's about what I've got so far. Obviously, I think Rob Lindsay's very well respected, so he would be a good option as well. Yeah, that's what I can add right now.
I was gonna say the first three names on the list. Rob, Diana, and Andy, I think. I mean, same with Commissioner Jordan. Those are the three names that I recognize.
I think for me too, and I think Rob would be able to give a good perspective of having worked at the county and the Water Resource Center and working on the APA, understanding the educational side of it, probably better than any of the others on the list. That is a big part of what we do. So, yeah, I like the three names too. I mean, I don't know the others, and I don't know the person you're talking about. So Andy certainly is one that I know.
Yeah, but the only other thought I had was, so Jamie Otsby Marsh, she's the director of the West Valley Environmental Learning Center. She's been there for, I mean, since I worked at the Lands Council, 20 years. She's really known from that, but I don't know. You know, she's been an educator in the West Valley School District for 20 years. So, I mean, people have gone through her program, but I don't know if Rob is very knowledgeable about the educational
And do we have
elements.
to,
I don't know if having a teacher would be,
right, I don't know if it's
beneficial.
limited to 3.
It's limited to 3.
It is.
And then the other piece is that they're required to be residents, just this year is residents within the jurisdiction, and I'm not sure. We weren't sure if jurisdiction means Spokane County or if it's actually the APA where we're having this. And so Jamie Otsby Marsh lives outside of the APA.
I think it has to be within who's being charged.
okay.
The fee. So that would be the jurisdiction, because it's the people that are being charged the fee, APA fee, versus somebody outside that.
She would be outside of that. Okay.
Yeah, so I included her because wasn't certain, but
Okay,
Well, I could agree the first 3 names too.
yeah, and I
If they're willing to serve.
yeah, if they're willing to serve, I say we stick with the top 3 names that are on this list and go forth and conquer from there. And then,
Works for me.
okay, Chris, okay, very good. And then before you guys leave, Matt, you're still here. Dustin from the Sheriff's Office. Hello, how are you?
Excellent.
Good. So we had some questions on the flock cameras. So do you want to put the slide back up? So do you guys just want to match it, or do you want to state the purpose again of exposure for us? For
Yeah.
Dustin, and then we'll.
Yeah, thank you for coming over. And we're here today just to amend the existing franchise that Flock Safety has with Spokane County for the license plate reader locations. And so looking at the map, it appeared to me a lot of them were along state routes. For the ones that are in county right of ways, our current franchise, I believe, was written for specific locations. By amending it, we're adding locations to that.
So go.
Just had a few questions regarding it.
So it's the red dots on that we're saying Flock is wanting to use the right of ways.
Yes.
So we were just saying that, you know, we don't want to just allow Flock to be putting up cameras. And so they're saying it's at the request of the sheriff's office. So we're making sure that it's at the request of the sheriff's office, that those are the locations that you would like them to.
Yes, it is.
Additional places.
Yes, the majority of these locations came about as a result of a grant that we were awarded from the Washington Auto Theft Prevention Association. And these are for a different type of camera than we've historically had. It's called long-range camera. They're installed on a county right-of-way that is adjacent to a state route that allows us to capture traffic along those state routes from the county right-of-way.
Okay,
And yes, those would all be camera locations that are at the request of the sheriff's office.
okay. And then the sheriff has a grant to then pay for that.
Correct.
For how long?
I don't know if it was, I believe it's a 2-year grant
Okay.
in this case.
And is that all that we're contracting with Flock
Under
for this?
contract, yes.
Okay.
And the contracting, pardon me, that's not my area of expertise certainly,
Right.
so I'm speaking to the best of my knowledge.
That's okay. That's just kind of as it comes before us like this, we were saying, we just want to make sure the sheriff's office is here with us and we understand kind of the purpose and the reason to be then allowing our right of way to be used and for what purposes. So, and then, you know, the flip side of that is to make sure that the sheriff has money in his budget to do it. So you kind of checked off all those boxes, I think. So we knew it was going to be a quick call, but we appreciate you coming over. Any other questions? No. So, okay, we will have this on the agenda for next week to right away.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming over. Appreciate it. Oh, just a second.
No, this is not on block, but Commissioner, I was wondering if I could 60-second update regarding the APA public hearing tonight.
Yes, so thank you. Appreciate it. We're off to the next topic.
Just wanted to let all of you know, direction from the board. We have been reaching out to and had our first meeting last night with the West Plains municipalities. Cheney and Emory Heights were both there. Medical Lake couldn't attend, but I'm catching up with Mayor Cooper later this week. I know she's expressed interest. Just wanted to let you all know they were very positive and very interested in the idea of a West Plains based APA. Initial reaction was they would all like to be included. Should that move forward, we have to have some continued discussions about what the fee structure will look like. There's actually a lot of consensus around the boundary already that staff have put together, and just we're going to kind of come back and talk a little bit more about what the program and how these funds might be used. But a lot of interest in moving forward, and they were really excited about it. There is a lot of, I like the flexibility the funding can be used for. They understand that it's a limited resource, but despite their challenges, they understand the value in protecting their water resources. And it was a really good conversation. So
would we be able to kind of continue to advance that to get it on November's ballot?
I think so. They would like to move, as quickly as reasonable. And so I think November's realistic. We're going to try to get back with them in a week or two with some ideas on what the program funds could be used for. There was certainly some interest in monitoring, as well as some potential, Ben really did a great job of kind of explaining, where we started from pre-APA with a lot of our long range planning in getting to some of the 20 and 30-year programming that we did with that. And I thought there was good dialogue about maybe starting with some planning efforts to really lay the groundwork for what some of these solutions might be on the West Plains. And I think we're going to get back together with them shortly and kind of get everybody at least nodding in the same direction on what at least the initial years of programming would look like, knowing that we're not going to know what we're doing 10, 15 years into an APA, but I think November is very realistic.
Okay. I think at the public hearing tonight or this afternoon, when we talk about the APA, if you could also talk about that's, since it's a renewal, how are we putting that or legal? Since it's renewal and adding back in the city of Spokane, which was out, but was part of it initially.
The language we settled on was renewal and boundary expansion.
So, and since it, you know, but if we changed it from Rafton Prairie Aquifer, that would change the whole thing. Because it's the boundary extension for the Rafton Prairie Aquifer. So if we were to, for the people from the West Plains that have been, you know, wanting this, it's like, we would have to do a whole new ballot measure and title. It's not a renewal if we extend beyond the Rafton Prairie Aquifer. So that's why we want to have it be a specific aquifer area, correct?
Right, this is discussing a new APA. I think the question that we're gonna have from some citizens later today is why logistically, is it possible to add the West Plains to the existing APA on our timeline?
So if you did so, you wouldn't be able to include the cities who very much want to be a part of this. The cities have to go through their resolution process to agree to be included in that. And that's not something that could be done by August. And
Right, but I thought part of it was it's two separate aquifer protection areas, basically.
that's the intent.
So we're renewing in the current aquifer protection area. If we extended it today, without the cities or any of that, we would not be just, it'd be a whole new measure. It wouldn't be a renewal because we've gone beyond the boundaries of the Rafton.
It would be something different, and which is why we've, you know, continually reinforced separate APAs would be better. And I will say that cities, none of them balked at that. They completely understood, yes, this should be a separate effort. It should have dedicated resources. Don't need to mix and match these things. And yeah, within our timing, you know, it would, to extend out into the West Plains now would potentially complicate our ballot measure, you know, as far as renewal of the SBRP, because it wouldn't be the same thing. And then it would exclude any municipalities as well. So I don't think it's truly feasible, but I do think it's feasible. We could absolutely have a West Plains APA on the ballot in November of this year.
Yes. Matt, I just want to make sure legally. If we extend beyond the Rafton Prairie Aquifer, because I think that's what it states in the title. That's what the APA is for. That's what our boundaries have suggested. If we go beyond that, it's no longer a renewal. We can't use the term renewal because we've now gone beyond that aquifer protection area.
You're correct. If we included a separate distinct aquifer, it would be new APA.
Okay, because as soon as you go precincts that are outside the area now for
That's getting further afield of renewal and boundary expansion on an existing aquifer. We're discussing adding in a whole separate aquifer.
Commissioner Jordan.
Cal, can you just say again, which jurisdictions were at the recent meeting? I just missed that list.
Cheney and Airway Heights were at the meeting. Unfortunately, Mayor Cooper was unable to attend, but I've had preliminary discussions with her. She has indicated Medical Lake is interested, and I'll be having a follow-up with her to go over the material, hopefully at the end of this week. I think you could pretty confidently say all three municipalities have expressed interest.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it would be an interesting legal, just follow up on the legal piece of like adding. It's probably legally possible to add and expand boundaries, but you'd have to change the whole title.
Right.
So then the question is really a renewal.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's interesting, but challenging, but I'm glad to hear that the cities in the West Plains are interested, have ideas, and thanks for providing all the information and ways they could use the funds collected.
And as a reminder, the public hearing is a statutory requirement. It's noticed as such with the language we've all discussed.
No, I
Do we have the updated?
So any
Language?
amendments to the, what's been noticed, would reset the whole notice.
Yeah. And normally we haven't had to do public hearings, but this one specifically is in the RCWs that there has to be a public hearing for the APA. Who knew? Other than legal.
Our lawyers.
Did you recall for juvenile and for measure one, there was no public hearing, it was a resolution that was adopted by the board that authorized the court ballot.
Do you have the updated language? Is it in this packet then? The updated,
Getting a head nod in Jasper.
okay, the packet that was provided on Friday.
Make sure we have it, yeah. Can you just make sure you've got a copy of that ballot? For us at our desk this afternoon. For the public hearing. I think that'd just be helpful to have a hard copy. So we're not all trying to look at the screen. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. One last question. What did the city of the Valley? Are they
vote tonight.
they're voting tonight? Okay, thank you. Just wondering if they are part of the group.
And I was stating that, did you already recap which cities have passed resolutions for this SPRP bill?
I haven't recapped it. So we have resolutions from the city of Liberty Lake, the city of Spokane, and the city of Millwood. So we'll see how the Valley votes tonight. Obviously, always cautiously optimistic, and it would be really great to have no holes in the boundary and really have agree, have everybody on board rowing in the same direction.
And yeah, and so just again, at the public hearing, let's just state where all the installations are.
They would be taking action on the resolution for inclusion as well as the interlocal agreement that you all have already approved. The both items queued up for tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, the item in your packet for Doug's briefing was the incorrect presentation. So the correct presentation, sure, so we show the my screen.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I just handed out the updated slide presentation. I think, Ron, you have the current ones now, right? Super. We're really pleased to be back visiting with you and for the opportunity to present on our off-road vehicle park project, the bids that we have, and as they relate to the grant. And without any further ado, I will hand it over to Maggie now.
So as you remember, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I think we explained what we were planning to do as a project with the funds that we had. Part of that was RCO had previously communicated to us that we would not get a time extension for this, and that we had to be closed out with the project by October 1st. Since our last conversation, they have now come back and said, actually, we can give you another 12 months, possibly 18 months, and we ask that you do this the way you want to. So there's that time pressure got taken off. So we just want to explain a little bit more clearly what was cut out of the project to meet our budget. Currently, with the funds that we had, we're doing the quarter-mile entry road, the demolition of the gatehouse, relocating the gate, putting in the security lighting, and then our maintenance staff was going to build a standard county park sign. What was originally in the project that we would do with the additional funds was a more upgraded entry sign that is typical of a lot of our special use facilities or regional parks. Something that is just a little fancier and helps set kind of a structure for the operators we have out there. And then also potentially new landscaping and irrigation, if the contingency allows. Next slide, please. So with the bids received, depending on which, alternates we are able to accept, it would either be between Liberty Concrete or Zed Contractors. Next slide, please. So here's the bid breakdown. Right now, we are planning with the current funds we have, it would be base bid and alternate 2, which is the security lighting. If we had an additional $55,000, we would be able to do the base bid, landscape lighting, landscape and lighting. If we were able to do 110 extra $1,000, we'd be able to do lighting and the sign, and then potentially the landscape if contingency allows. So next slide, please. As you remember, this is just kind of the project. The road will straighten out, and then the entrance sign is just getting pushed back, and the landscape sign and lighting are all in the front there. Next slide. This is the existing conditions. As you can see, the operators kind of have just hodgepodge their signage out there for their facilities. There's a 4th operator that has theirs on a sandwich board, just kind of falling apart. So we would really like to provide some structure for them to put their signage out that advertises their facility, but at the same time looks a little more put together and decent. Professional, if we don't have the additional funds, it'll be on them to put their signs back up. And I'm guessing it would look something similar to how it is currently. Next slide, please. So this is the sign that was designed that we would like to do with the additional funds. It uses the basalt columns that are very typical of the Airway Heights area, and then has the Corten steel for the county sign. And then it would have HDPE signs on either side for the operators, and those would be interchangeable. So should they have a name change or one of the operators changes hands, we would be able to replace those in the future if needed. And then that sign part of the alternate would be have lighting at night, since they do have a lot of events in the evening time. And then there would be landscape and irrigation if funded in front of it. Next slide, please. With the current budget, this is the sign that our maintenance team would build. It would obviously say Spokane Off-Road Vehicle Park, but it would not have any of the bells and whistles or anything like that. And again, the operators would be on their own to provide their own signage. Next slide, please. So we're requesting $110,000 extra to do the sign and potentially the landscape if contingency allows. This would bring the total project budget from 436 to 536. Or 520. Sorry, 647. 320. And that will give us a 10% contingency. Right now, we are operating under a 6% contingency. Well, there's not a lot to go wrong. It does require some digging and stuff, so we're not exactly sure what we'll find underground. Next slide, please. So again, our request is, if available, that we commit an extra $110,000 to the project to award base bid and alternates 1, 2, potentially, or sorry, base bid, alternates 2 and 3, and potentially 1. And if that were to happen, with the contractors. Any questions?
So where are we gonna?
Say read.
Okay, sorry. And then I haven't heard of Seton, so are they a qualified bidder?
They are qualified.
And what projects have they done?
Don't know off the top of my list, off the top of my head, but I can get that for you. We can ask for to provide.
That's in light of yesterday's conversations, Jeff, or how healthy is REIT 2?
There's a little over.
Concerns with this?
And it's not been allocated in REIT 2, over 3 million in REIT 1. You've committed to the legislature up to 1 million of those to match the Plants Ferry, but obviously there'd be more for this available too if the board was interested.
So we committed $1 million out of REIT 1.
We didn't say which we were coming out of the legislature. We just let them know we had enough in REIT to cover it. So combined, there's about a little over 4 million, 3 REIT, one in REIT 2.
Oh, go ahead.
And I think, related to the Plants Ferry, I think there was a couple $100,000 unassigned in car rental tax as well. So there's a combination of couple different places that the commissioners could use. So if you decided to go 100,000 on a REIT to go to the RV park and it brings down 900, there's a couple $100,000 in car rental tax that would still allow you to meet the $1 million commitment.
I'd recommend REITs since the car rental tax can be used for operations to a higher degree than REIT. We have a bill in the legislature that will essentially marry REIT 1 and REIT 2 that you could use either for the same
Right.
is moving. I don't know if it's been signed yet, so it might make it null the point whether you use REIT 1 or REIT 2.
Right, right. But it's gonna make it harder to use funding for parks in the future out of that is what it's gonna do.
Correct. Yeah, the opportunity cost, $100,000.
Sorry, Doug. But it's a good
Sure,
thing
I'd like
we've
this.
used it why we had it, right?
It sounds like we'll still have it, just a lot.
Yes.
Well, I was just gonna ask, Doug, knowing other projects that you have on your Parks Capital program and things we want to do. I know we're completing a lot of projects with the rescue plan dollars this year. What are your thoughts of using REIT for this project? Do you think that threaten any other parks projects that are in the mix here in the next year
I think
for completion?
the 6-year CIP is it's an ongoing effort, and I think our team, we've really focused on when we do a project, trying to do it right. And would much prefer, quite frankly, to do fewer projects and do them correctly than more projects where we're leaving critical components out. And so this would be an opportunity to really come in and do it right and have a finished product. Like that professional sign, you saw the 4 placements that provides an area for each of the 4 operators that work in combination out there to provide, and we really like to do it right. So I think I don't know that 100,000 would have a huge impact on future projects, but it is a constant moving target as far as the construction market, how far dollars go, planning requirements, obligations. Sometimes we have things that, we're always looking ahead. Occasionally something will expire sooner than it's scheduled to. And so this would not create any real concerns, and we'd be very supportive of being able to come in and deliver on the project and the vision that we've had for it. And that the community has helped us with.
I'd be supportive of using some of the REIT money to get this project done fully. And I just was thinking about the increased costs of it on upriver at the combined project we have with the city.
Shields.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that that's all still moving forward and we're not gonna need to put more money into that, or anyway, those are just my concerns.
Yeah,
because costs have been going up.
Yes. Yeah, and bids are in, and I think we may have an update on that in the near future. So there's some fun with RCO on that project where they've come back and wanted some additional information, I think, working with the federal government. But yeah, we should be in a good place there, based on the bids and the contract that's in place for that with the city. We're feeling good at this point. If we can, when we proceed.
So if the commissioners are all good with this, that's how we'll proceed. And this additional funding, along with when you make a decision on the Plants Ferry, we'll have to do an amendment to the 6-year CIP. So that'll be something that we'll queue up for on the 50th year or something like that. I think we're allowed to do one or two, the commissioners allowed to do one or two amendments, but we have to make sure that any commitments are read or appropriately reflected in our 6-year CIP.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Okay, that takes us to miscellaneous items, so this is the use agreement with Spokane Regional Health District.
That is mine. This is for the commissioners, the use of the health district building last week. They do have a use agreement they would like the board to execute after the fact, because they didn't provide it. They didn't provide it to us until Wednesday or Thursday of last week, so we didn't have an opportunity to bring it to the commissioners. It does have some indemnification language in there as well. It's no cost, but that's on your agenda this afternoon. So it's just executing after the fact.
But just allowing them to do, or I guess.
I'm sorry, it was last Friday's meeting. So it was the joint meeting that the commissioners had to see.
Oh.
To use the room down there.
Okay.
You're now signing the agreement, which allowed you to use that.
Did anybody get hurt during the meeting where?
I'm aware of.
Sign this, we're gonna get
Yeah.
sued.
We'll double check on that.
Very good. No, I think that'll work well, so great. Okay, any other miscellaneous items coming for us today?
We have just a couple, for the media. As everyone knows, Spokane Spotlight aired on Saturday. Madam Chair interviewed President of Indians, Chris Steff. It was great. Also for the press, we do have a press release going out this week. It is going to be after the detention services board ceremony. There's a quote from Chief Hooper in there, and we plan to send that out Thursday morning. Just so you are
Happy to provide a quote if we need to.
okay.
So we all support our detention services staff, so
Yeah, sounds great. I'll work with Martha.
okay. It's Corrections Officers Week, great, for proclamation.
Yeah, this is separate, but this is for meritorious service and detentions.
Okay, which usually is during Corrections Officers Week, right?
It's not two separate.
Okay,
Yeah, they're having their annual award ceremony tomorrow evening in
Yeah,
the,
tomorrow, 5 PM.
yeah, the
Right.
commissioners hearing room. And that's what this is, just to recognize them for that. And then we'll have a proclamation to do the correction officer week here in a couple of weeks.
oh, for May.
I thought we had proclamations today, but there's nothing on there.
Yeah, like,
Thought we had a few queued up for today, but I guess not. I must have that wrong.
I don't think it was quite ready. I think we're gonna push those later for the sports teams. We do have quite a lineup for next week.
Okay. I think Martha Lee said there was 4 next week. But yeah, I thought last week we thought there was 3 this week and 3 next week, but it must have been assuming that the sports stuff's just pushed into May, I think, so.
okay,
Yeah. Just briefly chatted with her yesterday after the meeting. Okay, great.
an executive session.
No executive, we do have one closed session.
Okay. So then, how long can we take? So I adjourned the meeting.
Right, but how long? Just adjourn, how long? 30 minutes.
Yeah, probably less.
Okay. So we will adjourn our meeting for the morning since there's no other business to come before us, but then we will stay for a closed session that we'll have and see everybody back at 2 o'clock. Thank you.